Right, greetings, Tau Nerds, and welcome to a very special episode where I'm joined by the lovely gentleman, Ross Tully. For those of you who don't know Ross Tully, he's been running Kroot, and I believe you've been doing quite well recently. I think you took down, I don't know, a big, massive super major, maybe the Beachhead Brawl, if I remember rightly. Is that correct, Ross?
Yeah, that is right. Still buzzing about it.
So, who the hell are you? How long have you been playing 40k? Just give us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Ross Tully. I've been playing 40k since I was 6 years old, like most people. Competitively, I've been playing for about 2.5 years, something like that. I first got back into it competitively when I was just looking for a change. I wanted something exciting to do with my weekends that wasn't, going out drinking and all that kind of that stuff, right? Trying to be a little bit more adult. So I thought, let's go play with some toys instead, because that's really adult. Uh, Got into 40k again, started going to tournaments, started off with Eldari and World Eaters. And then as I progressed through tournaments, I actually started meeting more people. I met a chap called Stephen Box, who runs Vanguard Tactics. After a few more games, I got better, a few more events. He invited me to be a coach for Vanguard Tactics, and that's where I am now. I've about pivoted away from World Eaters and Eldari, and most of the time I play just Kroot. Kroot only army, no other Tau models, trying to prove to those Tau people out there that you can be Tau without being Tau. We're trying to get away from that hate in the community.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting for me because while I'm kind of worrying about, oh my god, my stealth suits have gone up, oh my god, I've lost X, Y, and Z, oh my god, this, oh my god, that, you're just sat chilling going, well, Kroot still work. So it's really like you've been playing on the scene for, like you said, 2.5 years competitively. Now, over the last season and a half, I have noticed, and we have bumped into each other at events, and you have solely been running Kroot. And it has been the exact same list practically for a solid year and a bit, with some minor tweaks along the way. But you've been definitely an advocate of this is something that I've created, it's your creation, you've done very well with it, and you've put lots of like effort, blood, sweat, and tears across the journey. Now, what I want to know is why Kroot? Why did you suddenly land on Tau but not Tau but only Kroot? There must be a story there.
Yeah, good question. So, throughout the entirety of my competitive career in Warhammer, the thing that has frustrated me a lot is seeing the same thing all over the place. And this happens in any competitive game. You get the meta where the good list is the good list and people play it. And with the internet being like it is, everyone can see all the information that's out there. So it's really common that you go to an event and you go, oh, I'm playing Space Marines. Oh, it's the same Space Marine list. And because I've always been against it, I've always said to myself, I'm going to try and find something different, something weird that works. I've played Imperial Agents in my time. I was playing Aspect Host Eldari back in the Index when the Aspect Host was bad, and all this kind of stuff. Kroot came out, and I saw an opportunity. I went, no one's playing Kroot. This is going to be different. I've got an opportunity to carve something out. I started playing it. I've got to confess, my first two tournaments I went to, I think I lost 9 out of 10 games. I did horrendously to the point that one of the tournaments I had to drop out because my head was in such a bad place. I wasn't enjoying it, and I went, right, I'm not going to be a good opponent. So I actually left and went, I need to spend some time thinking about it. Took a few months out, reassessed my game plan. It took a ton of thought, and I got back into the scene. And over the past year and a half of playing Crew, I've slowly progressed, and hopefully you've probably seen at tournaments. I've like started doing better results. It was 3 2s, then it was 4 1s, then I started winning some smaller GTs, and finally I've managed to crack a huge goal of mine, which is to win a super major with Crew. And like you said, it's taken a ton of blood, sweat, and tears, but it's fun to play something different. And I love when I get to a table and people go, "Crew, what the hell is that? That's a cool army."
Yeah, and I will echo that because I've seen you. I think it might have been Sheffield last year. I think where it was you and Will B. And Will was like, "Nah, it's not looking good," because obviously it was Kion versus Crew, and you were just like, "Yeah." Yeah, but you were having a great time. But it really kind of shows that I go back a long way with Will B, and obviously like you, he started with Tau and has had some massive success over the last season or two, and has really kind of come into his own. But you've also been there as one of the UK Tau heroes, where it was like, yeah, you've got Will on Will on Kion, you've got Kyle on Retcard, you've got Tony on Monkar, and Ross on Kroot. So you've been definitely one of the Chassos of the UK, and people will look at that and respect that from a Tau perspective because it is something different. And something you said before, which it really, really kind of like means a lot to me, is something that you said about I spotted an opportunity, something different. I get bored of seeing the same old, and I want to create something and run with it. Now, I've always done that, especially with Tau in the Dark Days, where I've had to find something that's somewhat competitive, but it's giving me the tools that I want to use to play the game in the way that I want to play it, rather than just running the meta. And Kroot is definitely one way to do it. And I remember when the Codex came out, I did take Kroot to a Teams event because it was busted. And I wanted to say, look,
Yeah.
imagine having a War Shaper that keeps coming back and snipes out characters left, right, and centre. So there's a lot of little jank that was competitive, but not really in the, I suppose, spirit of the game, if that makes sense. But you just stuck with it. So hats off to you. And you've won that Super Major. So how does it feel to win a Super Major? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have not won a Super Major in the UK. And you've done it with Kroot, bro. So, like, yeah, you're Master Shaper. So, how does it feel, man?
Yeah, feels amazing. I was saying to you just before this call that coming into the year, this sounds so cheesy, but whenever I do anything from like my role, my career to Warhammer, whatever, I always try and set myself goals. When I go to a
Mm.
tournament, I set myself a goal. What am I trying to achieve? My goal this year, following the success I've had last year, was I want to win a super major and I want to play Warhammer abroad for the first time. Those are the two things. I've somehow done both of those by the beginning of February, which feels amazing. I almost can't believe it. I won a golden ticket at Beachhead, which means Kroot are going to go to Worlds, baby. I'm going to see Kroot on
Yeah.
the world stage. Um, so now I need to reassess and go, well, what am I going to achieve for the rest of the year?
So, because you went to, I believe, you went into the biggest Asian team tournament in Asia, right? The Thailand one that Greg Chamberlain, Nick Nanavati, and everyone went to. I saw your name there. I was like, oh my god, this guy's taking Kroot to Asia. I love this. They're amazing. So yeah,
Yeah.
you've had quite a busy month and a successful month at that, man. So amazing. So this, yeah, I like what you said about the goal setting because I think it'd be really interesting for audience to find out what you did to get to that point. Because obviously we talked about the beginning where you went to some events, you had to leave because your performance you just weren't in the right headspace, and you were one win, nine losses at the two events. But then now Beachhead, how many players are in Beachhead? Like over 250, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I think in between 2 and 250.
And it's a 6 round event, so it's no easy feat. So you've gone from having to leave an event because you weren't proud of your performance and you were just headspace wasn't in it to winning the one of the biggest super majors in the UK, a 6 round event, not a five, 6 rounds of just slobber knocker of a tournament. So what were some of the things that you did to get to that point?
Yeah, so I am all about, and part of this has come from VT, which has really helped because their coaching stuff's really good too, and I'm sure you do exactly the same thing. It's about iterative improvement. The number one pet hate of mine is I see someone play a game, doesn't work out, and they change the entire list. And I think, well, how do you know that what there isn't working, what is working? You've changed too much. So for me, it was a really iterative process of I started with deployment and I was going, right, I'm going to deploy like this. Does that work? No. If it doesn't work in that game, I'm going to keep the same list. I'm going to try deploying differently until the point that I think my deployment's good. Then I moved on to the next thing and I went, right, are all the units performing correctly? If this unit's not performing, maybe I need to change this unit out. And so over the course of many, many games, I would slowly change one thing at a time, evaluate whether that change has worked, and then try something different. And as a really good example of that, I've got these beautiful kind of custom printed Kroot hammerhead tanks. They're like Narlocks with hammerhead rail rifles on the back, and I thought this is
Nice.
gonna be amazing. One of the issues I found with the Kroot list is sometimes dealing with vehicles is a problem because your entire army is mostly strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. It sucks. And I thought, well, maybe these are going to work. And I tried them iteratively over maybe 5, 6, 7 games, and it was just not working at all. So that's an example where I tried something, didn't work, kept at it, and eventually went, right, I need to change that out.
Okay. It makes sense because obviously we do a lot of lists as Tau players or just as general 40k players. It's constant kind of chasing the rabbit, if you will. You know, this isn't working, going to try this, and you've obviously stuck to that process, and it's giving you the success that you've had today. In terms of, I think we should like go into the list for those people that are watching. We're like 10 minutes in, they're like, just give us the list. What's the list? Let me copy
Yeah.
it. So run me through the list that you took to Beachhead.
Sure. So I'll start with the characters in the list. They're not necessarily the core, but they do influence some things. So the first character that's probably the most important to the list is I have one Lone Spear. The Lone Spear gives effectively Oath of Moment against a unit for both shooting and melee, which is crazy good. The Lone Spear is really important. I then have four other characters. I have two Kroot Flesh Shapers, which both improve the durability of a unit from giving them Feel No Pain, and they increase the output a little bit from sustained hits. I've then got one Trail Shaper and one War Shaper. The Trail Shaper gives you two redeploys. One is his unit, one is another unit that you choose, and also a reactive move. And then the War Shaper is kind of like a Space Marine Captain, gives you a free ability, which is pretty important. That's the core of the list, the core of the characters. Sorry, the Kroot Lone Spear is a lone up, stays on his own. The other two characters, four characters, they split off into two groups of two, and they join two big 20-man units of Kroot.
And you've obviously given them enhancements. So you've got the Kroot Halt Flock on the Lone Spear for that no deep strike within 12, and also he has Ignores Cover, which is pretty spicy on his Blast Javelin. And then the Nomadic Hunter, which is the +3 movement for the unit and gives them Assault. And then you've got the Root Carved Weapons, which is the Orc from Lord of the Rings, sniping out characters, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
killing people. And it gives him the Devastating Wounds, right? And precision, right? Yeah, that's the enhancement. So, what would you say how would you rank the Kroot enhancements, and which one is pivotal to the way that you play? Because I think there's a few of them that are nice, and one of them that to me sounds pivotal.
Yeah. So I actually think the Kroot enhancements, if I could take all four,
Oh,
I would take all four. I think Kroot have got the best enhancements of the game, and they're only mitigated by the fact that they go on Kroot, who are rubbish. So if it wasn't for that, they'd be phenomenal. Um, so the ones that I think are really essential, I think there's two that are essential in my opinion. The first is the anti-character precision dev wound gun that goes on the War Shaper. Super important because Kroot's damage output is not that great. So if you can take out a key piece from an opponent's army, like a key character here or there, that can completely swing the course of a game. Because as we know, there are so many characters that come with enhancements and free abilities and all kinds of stuff that enhance a unit. So picking that unit out sometimes can just change the entire course of a flank of the battlefield, which is big. That one's really important. The other one is the 10-inch move enhancement that goes on, I think it's the Trail Shaper.
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
That one is so important for two reasons. Firstly, if you scout 7, you move 10. You go 17 inches off your deployment turn 1 if you want to. That's crazy. Especially when you're a 20-man unit that's OC 40. That's quite useful. Um, the second is because it has that movement. Quite often with Tau, you get bogged with Kroot, sorry, you get bogged up in the middle of the table. Kroot can fall back, shoot, and charge for a CP. So that unit can fall back 10 and still charge. So quite often, turn 1, I'll tie something up. Turn 2, I'll be on someone's home objective.
Yeah. And then, like you said, the other one is just the other one that is missing is the Borthrod gland, the one that gives you crits on 5s, and it's something you mentioned there about what the Flesh Shaper does, gives you sustained in combat on 6s, but that one just enhances it to 5+. Now, when obviously I do love my Kroot. I do have a full Kroot army. My mate gave me 250 Kroot in lockdown, and I've got all the Rampage and stuff like that. So I have played around with Kroot, and when my teammates go, please stop taking Tau, I turn up with a Kroot army, and they're like, bring back Tau, stop it with this, right? And yes, some of the things you mentioned there, I think that Borthrod gland is cute, but it's the one that you unfortunately don't take because the other ones are just so good. Have you found that the Kroot Halt Flock has actually, in this current meta, been useful with no deep strikes, or do you think it's one that you could maybe cut?
I could definitely cut it. And the reason is that when you bring a Kroot army with 156 models, having a 12-inch no deep strike is is kind of inherent to the army. It might as well be the detachment rule because people can't deep strike with that many models.
Mm.
What it does do is it basically saves you from if you make a careless mistake. Because if you allow someone to deep strike within 12 and kill your lone spear, that can completely change the game because you lose a lot of your damage output and you need to stack the buffs. So with him being a lone op and no deep strike in 12, it means people can't get him in a single turn from deep striking and
Yeah.
shooting. Um, so I probably would cut it if I needed to, but right now it's fine. It fits my list, so I leave it in.
And I think actually the one thing, rather than focusing just on the no deep strike within 12, like you mentioned, it actually gives the Lone Spear Ignore cover. So his AP2, is it strength 10 AP2 damage 2 D6 blast? He got strength 10 before the Riptide did. Just to, insult to injury for the rest of the town players that are looking at
Yeah,
Riptides. The Riptide's been inspired by the Lone Spear, a Kroot licking a
yeah,
javelin on a chameleon. Yeah, sick. Bam. Ignores cover, which is pretty good. And damage 2. Kills, like, infiltrators or 5-man marines, things like that. Okay.
I mean,
So,
my on
go
that
on.
note, by the way, my running joke for the army is that they're every time they shoot or fight, the crew are just throwing poo-covered sticks at people, and in this case, it's like a hyper-powered strength
Oh,
10
yeah, yeah,
poo-covered
yeah,
stick, and
yeah. It's hyper focused. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned something about the Kroot units. Now, you've got 2 units of 20, and then you've got 4 units of 10. So obviously the 4 units of 10, there'll be a role for them, whether it's screening, scoring, trading, that kind of thing. But I think the juice of the list comes from the 2 20s and how you maybe use the 20s versus the 10s. So just give us a little bit of insight in terms of what your normal game plan would look like with the 20 mans and the 10 mans.
yeah, absolutely. So just to briefly mention, it always comes down to list design. You've actually touched on it there, where you said they have a specific role in the list. 100%. As soon as I start my list design, I'm thinking, right, this unit's job is this. It's not, oh, I'd like to have 20 crew. I'm going, no, their job is to sabotage my opponent's expansion, or it's to solidify my expansion, whatever it might be. Um, so in this case, there's two 20 mans. One moves really fast, the other one has got really good shooting. With that in mind, the one that moves really fast typically will go for my opponent's expansion, because that is typically a bit further away. The one that's got the anti-character shooting will normally solidify on my home expansion, and it can pop out when needed and get sightlines and kill characters. That's kind of the route. So one is like an anvil, the other one is like a very weak hammer that just goes and disrupts. Doesn't actually kill anything, but it just stands on the stuff and says, "This is mine now."
Yep. Now the thing that I'm gonna take a guess here, and I'm gonna try and put on my Kroot brain. Um, if I was Ross Tully and I was running the 20 man with my Flesh Shaper and maybe this Nomadic Hunter Trail Shaper with a +3 move, I know that in a natural game of 40k in the early stages, people want to go, here's 5 scouts, here's 5 infiltrate, or they go, oh my god, your whole army does what now? It's scout move 7? Oh, I'm gonna have to block that. I won the infiltration roll off. Hey, 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 you can't scout. You're like, thank you for that. Here's the 20 man Kroot unit that's gonna eat your face, and then the whole unit now has a 5-up feel no pain. So you've gone straight into my game plan, and when you come close to me, I'm going to reactive move and then potentially do shenanigans for fallback. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, yeah, spot on. My favourite thing, which happened twice this weekend, is Necrons run these big kind of lists with all these big durable monsters in it, and then these tiny little units of like, here's some 5 flayed ones, and my 20 crew go, I'm going to eat those flayed ones somehow. I don't know how they eat them,
The skin.
and then they become yeah, yeah, and then they become equally as durable as the Necrons in a different way, and they kind of stand in front of the Necrons and say, two can play this game.
Yeah, and you stood there going, yeah, excuse the phrase, but you're flipping the bird, right? You're like, what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My again, we might come to this in a bit, but my game one was against the unkillable Necron warrior brick.
Mm.
They dump them in the middle, and I go, fine, here's 60 crew. Let's just do this for the whole game then. And they just both just doing this for the whole game, just like slapping each other and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
achieving it.
So I think the only difference from your list to a Kroot list that I run is that I really don't go down the route of multiple flesh shapers. I do multiple trail shapers because I think the reactive move in 40k is such a powerful tool to have, and Kroot have it quite a lot. Versus, say, well, normal Tau don't have it for some reason outside of Oxcad. We have the pseudo Fire and Fade, but Kroot have access to it with Trail Shapers. So I kind of run 2 to 3. If I'm honest, I always want to run 3. So, what was your kind of decision to only take one? Do you find that that's enough, or is there some other thing that I'm not seeing that you see?
Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting point. I find that the reactive move being a D6 and typically being in a 20-man unit of crew, I tried it in the 10 mans and they were really easy to pick off for assassinate and
Mm,
secure no prisoners, that kind of thing. So I stuck with the 20 mans. I then found that a reactive move in the 20 mans, while it's amazing, it's still D6. And because there's 20 of them, even if you roll like a 3, chances are your unit's probably still not going particularly where you want it. So for me, I treat the reactive move as a bit of a Brucey bonus, and every now and then I might stick one dude out behind in front of a wall and then be a bit cheeky with it. Really, I actually take the one Trail Shaper for the redeploy. Um,
yeah.
redeploy allowing me to, if I get first drop, to screen out nearly the entire table because a
Yeah.
12-man unit of Farstalkers, I think it screens out something like 36 inches of the
Yeah,
board. It's
from
horrendous.
center point of the board, you say, "How about no?"
Yeah. So doing that to then redeploy somewhere a bit sensibly,
Yeah.
that is the key reason I take the Trail Shaper, as opposed to the reactive move.
Okay. So I think the one thing that I've been doing with the Trail Shapers, which I really like, and I suppose it is variable because it's a D6. It's not like D6 plus or flat six. If it was flat six, we'd 100% been in
Gosh,
agreement. We'd be taking three of them, right?
I'd have three 20-mans and three Trail Shapers
Oh,
in one.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. So because
damn
it's
it.
yeah, because it's variable, I found that the best success that I've had when I've ran the Trail Shapers in the 20-man Kroot unit is that you can play, and we'll get onto like top tactics and stuff later, but one that I've been really enjoying is the fact that you can like octopus out your unit, and then with your reactive move, you can spread off onto objectives, and then when they shoot you, you've got various stratagems that you can play, like Lone Op 18 that you can abuse when the order of sequencing in terms of their shooting activations. And I found that the Trail Shaper just adds another cheeky layer to that, which I quite like. But again, it's that versus the Feel No Pain, and I 100% agree. The Feel No Pain, having it on two units especially, can suddenly make those two blobs 5 up Feel No Pain if they happen to kill something. And I think that is also just as powerful, probably more, giving you credit where credit's due. You've ran this to a massive success, and clearly that works more. And you mentioned something about the Necron unkillable warrior brick. You're essentially doing that as well. And I think if you don't have the double flesh shaper, you only have one unit rather than two.
Yeah, yeah, exactly
So,
that.
so in terms of obviously 10 mans, you mentioned that obviously, yes, it doesn't take a genius to work out that putting some Kroot on an objective and sticking it is great. Is there anything that you do in terms of like sequencing, like how you position the 20 mans? Do you screen the 20 mans with 10 mans, or do you just kind of bully the 20 man forward and use the 10s as screens and action monkeys?
Yeah, so it varies a lot. It depends on a few things, whether you're going first or second, depending on the matchup you're in as well. It all varies tremendously. I guess as a broad strategy, what I'm normally thinking in my head is 40k can be fairly simple if you break it down, and it goes this way, right? In that if you hold your home objective in your expansion and you stop your opponent holding the middle and their expansion, theoretically you win the game
Yeah.
because you're going to hold two objectives and they're going to hold one for 5 turns. So in my head, I'm thinking that's really simple. Let's see if we can do that every turn. What that normally boils down to is if you've got a 20-man screening and holding out your expansion and you're holding your home with another 10-man, I've then theoretically got another three 10-mans and a 20-man plus the rest of my army, which we'll get into, that I can just hurl at objectives every turn to say, no primary for you, no primary for you. Or
Mm.
even better, to tie up the enemy army before they even get near an objective, let alone them being on it. So that's their kind of role typically.
Yeah, I think that it's such it sounds really simple, and a lot of people like watching like YouTubers and content out there, and you have us two going, yeah, just score more primary and you win game. But
Yeah.
because 40k was promised in this edition to be simple, it actually isn't. But we lose track of the simplicity of have a plan for your scoring, and you mentioned in the very beginning the planning of what units in your list have a particular role to play. And so with your well constructed list, you've gone, okay, even my 10 Kroot idiots are going to go forward, deny primary, occupy board space, delay them, just so that my meat of the list, which we're going to get onto, gets into position to be able to do the damage when the mid game battle starts to happen. So yeah, I think that is crucial. And obviously, you've got the tools. We're in a normal Tau army. We don't have this plethora of units. We can have 3 units of 10 crew. That's it. You're like,
Yeah,
amateur.
absolutely.
So you got the
And I
Farstalkers. Go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the other thing I guess to mention, the other role that the Kroot have is they allow you to stage with the rest of your army.
Mm.
So even though you scout seven and you move seven, Kroot don't have advance and charge. They don't have any other nonsense apart from that one unit that moves 10. Everyone else just moves seven. It's quite slow, like that's Space Marine speed, not advancing. So those crew, their job typically is to form like an advanced ruin, a body of chickens to kind of hold people up and give you that extra turn to move the rest of your army up, ready for the actual stuff that does damage to get in.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about the Farstalker unit. So the Farstalker unit is essentially a pseudo unit of Kroot that for somehow they've practiced the art of infiltrating deep into enemy lines but forgot about the ability to scout along the journey. We call it maybe they've eaten the wrong, maybe they've eaten too many infiltrators and space marines and they've just, taken over the genes and gone, oh, I've forgotten how to scout. But there's some really interesting combos with the Farstalkers because they have the bounty hunter rule, which I'll be honest, hands on my heart, every time I play, I always forget about it. But it's crucial because being able to pick a particular target and go lethals, and there is some options where you could put the Warshaper with the special bow in the Farstalker unit to have lethals, but actually that goes against the dev wounds. It's like meh. But the Farstalker is essentially a big ass unit, but they've got some weird size models in there, like the Killbroker is on a bigger base, and then you've got the two hounds. Now, that can actually lead to some really interesting things that you could do for charging because of movement shenanigans and the extra inches that you gain from spreading out the unit. But more importantly, like you said, you could infiltrate that unit and go, well, you can't infiltrate now because I've blocked off the entire board and I'm going to redeploy. I believe you're gone with the Farstalker firearm, which is essentially a Tau rifle, right? Or has they not got the Tau rifle? Yeah, they got the Tau Tech rifle. And
Yeah, it's
then
the strength AP0, yeah.
yeah. And then you've got Petra the bird, of course. Why wouldn't you want ignore cover? And then you've got
Yeah,
the Dovrite, which is basically just a fancy Kroot word for a flamer, right? Nice.
yeah, exactly that.
Is there anything about the Farstalkers that I've missed?
You're spot on. They are so important in terms of twofold. The first one is that board space at the start. Your entire army scout seven. You want to be able to scout seven. You also want to give your slow ass chickens time to move up the board. So if you go first, the Kroot Farstalkers are the ones that heroically salute and they sacrifice themselves by standing an inch in front of the enemy army and say, "Come on, boys, you got this."
You
So that's
got
job
this.
number one. Job number two is because they can pick one unit to get lethal precision against. It doesn't sound that scary when you look at the unit's profile, but they get circa 20 strength 4 AP0 ignore cover shots, a flamethrower, and then a further 26 strength 4 AP0 melee attacks as well. And if someone's wounded, you get +1 to hit because of the detachment rule. If they're below
Mm.
half strength, you get +1 to wound. The amount of times the Farstalkers have, I've gone first, they have walked 7 inches in front of a unit of orcs, in front of GSC, in front of Drakari. They've grenaded that unit, shot it, taken out the character. Normally they kill the whole unit, but very worst case, they kill the character out of it. And you've probably played orcs before, right? Orcs without a war boss, not so good.
Not so good.
Killing a war
Yeah.
boss
Yeah.
sucks for them.
What was it? Oh, you got a big unit of Gretchen with Zodrog? Nah, they're not
Yeah,
doing anything now. Nah. But and I also think there is something that when I was playing the crew, I had a Custodes army that had a single like golden little rhino with some witch seekers inside, and my Farstalkers went, you know what? I quite fancy my chances. Lone spear went
yeah,
up, pop, grenaded them beforehand, grenaded them, did that. Then he was like, "How? What are you doing? I'm now charging said rhino, and now your rhino's dead." And he had to CP reroll a failed save to try and keep it alive, and obviously he failed it. And I was like, "Well, looks like you're dead." He was like, "Turns out full rerolls to hit with lethals and +1 to hit and +1 to wound when it gets down to it is a bit savage." I was like, going, "Yeah, 85 points, mate."
yeah. So yeah, that's surprisingly good. And in the spirit of being a good opponent, I'll always tell my opponent very clearly. I say, look, these guys have precision. They can do this. So
Yeah,
just please don't leave your characters somewhere stupid. Which is whilst being a good opponent, it also kind of in a way assists the game plan because your opponent will be a bit more cautious with their characters.
yeah,
But they probably should because if they don't, they will lose them. So yeah, I always find it's good to tell people. I don't want to catch them out, but it does actually help me sometimes too. So
Yeah, 100%, and I agree. I think the one, and obviously you just an advocate that as your own player, but obviously with this emphasis on sportsmanship and fair play, and also understanding that you've got a lot of rules. And people will look at that army and go, "This is really cool. Kroot are awesome, man. I'm so glad I'm not going against town." Then afterwards, they're like, Groot. Like, hate this shit. And then,
yeah,
but there's so many things and layers to your army that you've mentioned that trying to explain all of that to your opponent is time consuming. And obviously, especially playing at a 6 round event, you're going to be knackered. It's going to be a lot of talking. So just pointing out the key things like hide your characters, otherwise I will kill them. Remember that I can react to move. Remember that I can fall back, shoot, and charge this in movement 10. All those key things to help your opponent, which obviously, like you said, it helps you as well because they're going to pay you the same dividends when something that happens in their army that you might have missed. So 100% Kroot, if you're playing it, you've got to tell your opponents the key stuff, otherwise it's a nightmare.
yeah, agreed.
Hound.
And I think the other thing that goes alongside that too is take like the War Shaper with precision. If my opponent just dumps a character in front of him, I will say before they finish their movement, I'll say, "Look, remember I've got precision, etc." And part of that is I don't want to win a game because my opponent doesn't know my army.
Mm.
I want to win a game because both of us know all our rules and we're prepared and we're doing the best things we possibly can. So I really don't like catching people out. So part of that is like, here's all the information. I might be doing myself a disservice, possibly. Maybe I would win even more events if I didn't tell people, but I wouldn't feel happy knowing I've won because my opponent forgot I had a rule, kind of thing. So,
Yeah, agreed. I've had that feedback a lot. Like if you just stop talking, you'd actually probably finish a game, Kyle, or you'd be left with like 10 minutes on the clock, Kyle. I'm like going, yeah, okay, that's fine, but I do actually want my opponent to have a good time, and it's easier for me to do with Tau because I go, yeah, you see this Markalite, I look at you and it's dead, whereas you're
thing
like,
is,
yeah, I don't really shoot you, but if I was to shoot you, I'm going to do this, and this, and then this, and then this. And it's got a surprising amount of damage when you start to layer it. And we'll talk about the stratagems after the list. So
yeah,
then, in terms of the, I'm not going to call them trash because the dogs are great. You've got
no,
3 units of Kroot Hounds of 5 mans. Now, obviously they're OC 0, but in Kroot Hunting Pack, or just in general, when they're within 12 inches of a Kroot character, they gain OC. So actually, they can be doing your actions, the secondaries, and I'm sure there's other roles that you use them for. What would one of those other roles be in your general game
yeah.
plan?
These are my best boys. Their ideal role is charging tanks. They love tanks.
Yes.
They love charging DDAs. They love charging repulsor executioners, and they just go "Rah," and they just do nothing, but they tie the up for a turn, and it's fantastic. That's their main role.
Yep. Charging and tagging stuff, because Kroot Hounds have an ability at the beginning of the command phase, if they're within 6 inches of the Kroot Carnival squad, they can advance and charge. And there's nothing better than a dog that moves 12 going, well, actually, let's add a d6 to that and then charge. And then also with OC, there's various things that you can do to, if an unwary opponent has not put the correct amount of OC, aka 6, not 5, you go, woof.
Yeah,
No primary for you. And how many points that unit? 40. And obviously, there's a little bit of a positioning thing that you need to factor in because they have to trail back to be within 12 of a Kroot character, which can be quite nice with your blobs of Kroot that are going forward, but maybe not the Lone Spear because he's trying to be safe. But he does have a Fire and Fade built in, so there are some shenanigans you can do there.
yeah, exactly that. Yeah, they're typically my Fruit Hounds are all dead by like end of turn two,
Mm.
but they have done immeasurable work by tying up some of the best units in the opposing army, ready for again some of the units we'll talk about in a minute to actually get in and fight.
Yeah. And I think one thing I want the community to start thinking about when you're watching this is I'm sure heroic intervention might come in at some point, and that is a very core stratagem that I know that me and Ross know what we're going to talk about. But those Crew Hounds for 40 points are looking pretty spicy. Now,
They are great.
gorillas. That's what people are here for. They want to know about the gorillas. So, have you taken small use gorillas? No. Have you taken max gorilla? Yes. So, 6 man rampages. Tell us a little bit about the data sheet. Why are they good? Why have you taken 18?
Yeah. So they do incredible amounts of damage if they make it in. I will preface that by saying it's in a dream scenario that they get in. So if you layer all the buffs on top of them, they can murder most things in the game in a single charge. They're awesome. However, what I tend to find is rather than them actually doing that, what they tend to be is a great big distraction Khan effects of, oh my god, these gorillas could do something. What I tend to try and achieve is I create a scenario where I've got all my OC2 idiots, my regular crew are stood on objectives. In between those objectives are hordes of gorillas. And my opponent has to go, do I kill the gorillas that will kill me? Or do I kill the crew and therefore stop the points, but then the gorillas kill me? And it creates this juxtaposition where the opponent says, well, both of these things are bad. Which one's less bad? And when you combo that with some of the strats, and you kind of touched on this earlier, things like lone op, you can really mess around with what they're actually killing because
Yeah.
those gorillas are toughness 6, sorry, with 5 wounds, with a 5+ invulnerable save, possibly a -1 ballistic skill to the opponent, a lone op. They are a nightmare to kill.
They're basically what crisis suits dream of being. Toughness 6. Good in melee, somewhat okay in melee.
Yeah,
Web skill 5, strength 5, no AP is not something I would class as a combat profile. But
yeah,
sustain hits, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage gorillas. I think the only one thing that Kroot need to make them completely busted and taken from that stupid Oxcad stratagem suite is the reroll wounds and extra AP. If Kroot had that, oh my god.
that would be wild. Or like a move through walls strat, that would be lovely.
Oh,
Just make
or
them beast.
just
Be
make a
great.
beast. Exactly. Do you know how many messages I've sent to Josh Roberts asking for this? Please make him beast, or at least give us a proper cavalry movement. We are the only movement 7 cavalry. Huh?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And so that ties into my entire game plan. As I'm thinking, right, how am I going to deliver these guys into combat? And that's
Yeah.
where the hounds come in and the infiltrators. But the whole army is basically saying, how do we enable these slow ass gorillas to actually do something?
It's like Kroot have got like a little lead going, come on, gorilla, this way. Come on, go on and
Yeah,
smash.
yeah,
Hulk smash. Go for it.
yeah,
So yeah, now the interesting thing that I'm sure you played to some absolute success and absolutely ruffle stomp people in the ground is the charge mortals. The fact that it works when you make a charge, whether that's heroic intervention or not, can really kind of spice up the engagement because if you say heroic with them, you still do your charge mortals, and there's another effect that everybody that I have talked about Kroot with that have gone to an event, this is what they say afterwards. Oh, I forgot about the battle shock test.
yeah. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, you've taken a casualty. You have to take a casualty, not a wound, a casualty. You go, well, on average, let's just say you get, just do basics, you get 3 gorillas in. So 3 4+ chances to do D3 mortal wounds. Okay, I killed a space marine. Can you please take a leadership test? And if you fail it, no more strats for you?
Yeah, it can completely swing the game.
Yeah. Like AOC. Rampages don't like AOC, but you can't use AOC if you're battle shocked, and then you can't do anything if you're dead.
Yeah, it would really suck if you charged 2 different units and they were planning on interrupting and then you battle shock one of them. That would suck. Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that it works on.
And they've got something stupid like 24 attacks, sustain hits. They'll be obviously hitting on 2s if you've chucked a grenade on the way in because they have the grenades keyword, and they've even got pistol shooting, which is great. Look at the riders on top; they're doing cowboy style pistol time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So easy to make them +1 hit, and it just so happens that the lone spear makes them full rerolls in combat as well to hit. So it's like, all right. So I hit on 2s. So I know statistically best just to reroll everything that's not a 6. And then your gorillas are doing what now? Yeah. And then the guys on top, when they're like, oh, is that the unit done? They're going, no, I've still got to do the riders with Lance at 3 attacks each, right? Yeah, so 18 attacks. 18 attacks, strength 4, Lance, AP 1, 1 damage. It's like, oh my god, it just won't, it never ends. And you've got
7 attacks a model is really good.
Yeah. Now, I remember when they first came out and they were like something stupid like 260 points or 250 points for like 6, and now they're a gentleman's 170.
We take that. We like that. I've had over the course of the Kroot career, and this is part of the list changing, right? Is right at the very start, lots of things were really cheap.
Yeah.
The gorillas have gone down, and they've changed the prices of like the Kroot gunners, which we'll see in a second. But the points for like regular Kroot have gone up, and it just so happened it was after I beat one of the Roberts at a certain event
Mm.
that the points for the Kroot went up. Pretty strange.
Yeah.
And so since that, I've had to like juggle around with the list a little bit, and it's resulted in me dropping an ethereal, and I've really gone to full just Kroot only plus Vespid. But they're auxiliary, they count.
Yeah, they count. They count. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's interesting you said about that because I was privy to that sort of style of conversation. He was like, yeah, suddenly Kroot have gone up. I wonder why. It's like, God damn it, Ross, stop getting Kroot nerfed. And then since then, they don't know what to do with Kroot. They can't nerf it because if they nerf Kroot, they indirectly nerf Tau in the process, and they don't really know what to do with gorillas.
Exactly that. And on top of that, there's so few of us that play Kroot. I mean, it's very rarely does it come up that someone's won a decent event. I mean, annoyingly, I now have, so I'm hoping that doesn't
Mm.
cause no effect. But yeah, typically they're not really seen. So
You'll have like your face on a poster somewhere, being like, it's your fault. They've got a Kroot infestation. You're going to inspire the masses to suddenly all the Kroot enclaves are going to come together in the sphere expansions and just take over the UK, then Europe, then the world, and it's just going to be like, oh, we're cancelling the Tau Codex. It's now just Kroot Empire done.
yeah, hey, look, I'm here for it, and I will push for that.
Mate, I'll join you. At this point, I don't care. I love Kroot. It's fun. Let's go. Right, I'm sick and tired of seeing every list go to Triptide. Like, I know it's eternal, but I don't want it. That's why I want to do my 21 suits. That's my creation, the equivalent of your Kroot list. I'm like, no. But every single time I look at Riptides, I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm tired. I'll just play Kroot.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, my next project, I've got a load of they're kind of like breachers, but they look like they're Kroot wearing breacher armor.
Nice.
I've got 60 of those bad boys. I'm going to get some Kroot themed Devilfish, and I'm going to go full Fish of Fury, but Kroot themed cow.
So it'd be like a Kroot masquerading as a Montcar for UKTC, maybe. Oh, I see.
Exactly that. Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it. So, we've talked about our Rampages. They're obviously a pivotal part of the damage. They can do fantastic stuff. But we're not finished there. We've got more gorillas to talk about. So we've got the Krootox Riders. You can take a single one for 40. Hell, you could upgrade and maybe take 2 for 60. Well, if we're doing that, why not we just go full-on gorilla and go 3? Now, 90 points. So you basically, with the Krootox Riders, they have a different role here. But they're still gorillas. So they still have the same profile in combat, but they don't have the sustained hits. It's still 4 attacks, 6, 1, 2. Now, they have the options of 2 guns. They have the repeater cannons, which are basically like auto cannons at 712, rapid fire 4 with 2 shots, and you've got the Tangle Bomb launcher, which is strength 6, no AP, 1 damage, d6 plus 3 blast.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Something like that. And that's cool, but why take blast Tangle Bomb? If the meta's Horde, then fine. Or you could just take auto cannons and rapid fire them and have the same roughly average amount of shots. Now, they have a special rule, don't they? Which I think causes a bit of confusion because there's some tricksy things you can do with it. Run us through what their special rule is.
Yeah, so I guess in short, their special rule allows you to shoot back at a unit that shoots infantry that's within 6 inches of you. It's really good, although in all honesty, I forget about it all the time.
Yeah.
I think I've played maybe 90 tournament games of Kroot now, and I think I've used that rule twice. One of them was really effective. A man did this super warp spider move with Lycus on top of some ruins and fired down at my 20 Kroot, killed like 10 because 5 plus invuln, feel no pain. And then I went, oh, my riders are just going to look up and shoot you back, and they killed the whole squad, which is fantastic. So the one time I remembered it, it was awesome, but normally I forget.
It turns out, Ross, if you actually remember that rule, you might have won a Super Major months ago.
Yeah, maybe I'd have won an extra Super Major, that would be nice.
Yeah. Well, there's always time. So yes, there's obviously some. Obviously, the intent of the rule is that they shoot Kroot infantry, but there's some other weird thing that you can do. And to be honest, I'm not going to get into it. If you read the rules as written, you can do some janky stuff. But essentially, just shoot back when they try and target your infantry, which they're going to do. Now, the other thing that I quite like is that actually, when you look at the profile of the riders, they're actually quite a good anti-tank piece, specifically going into transports, because they're, okay, look, 712, not ideal. Okay, smoke, AOC, brilliant, whatever. If you're going to waste your CP on that, then be my guest. But when you layer the full rerolls to hit, and then the potential of doing the extra AP stratagem that's within the Kroot stratagem suite, you can suddenly be at 7-1-7-2-2, but it's not limited like most extra AP strats to a single unit. It's once a Kroot unit has targeted or hit them with one Kroot gun, you could have a Kroot unit go, nah, I've got different plans, boys. Bam! I shot the track. Did you do anything? Nope. But my big friends are going to do something. And then everything shooting into that target gets the extra AP. And I think that's quite spicy. And I'm sure you use it to great effect with maybe a War Shaper.
Yes, absolutely. So the wombo combo is you grenade with a War Shaper for free, ideally. Or you can pay a TP, because either way we're going to come onto it. You get the +1 to hit. You then shoot them with the Lone Spear. That gives all your units reroll to hits. You can then shoot them with a different unit. And the reason that I wouldn't normally do this with the War Shaper is because the War Shaper is in a 20-man with more shots. So I might, for example, have 6 Rampages, just throw some spears at a unit. And as long as they hit one of them, I then get +1 AP for everything else that then shoots. From there, now my entire army is going to be AP2, +1 to hit, full rerolls to hit. Pretty gnarly. And from that, you can really murder some units, as my opponent found out when I was shooting things like Wraiths, shooting at the Nightbringer, all this kind of stuff. They found out it can be pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, I had a friendly game at a local club which I tried to dip my toe into YouTube Shorts and failed miserably. The first one was like Kroot versus Imperial Agent. Second one just went January the 26th. Had no engagement, but the first one was like everyone was like, "Oh my god, Kroot and Imperial Agents!" And when he put 10 Death Watch veterans with the captain there trying to go, "Oh, come at me with your rampages, etc., etc.," he died to just the Kroot shooting with everything. He was like, "Well, that sucks." And I was like, yeah, it's quite a lot of bucket of dice. Here we go.
What I learned bizarrely is the Krootox riders, the gunners, are probably more pivotal to my list than the rampages in a bizarre way. Because people shoot the rampages, like I said, they're a big distraction. It takes a lot to chew through them. Like a Rogel Dawn kills something like 3 of them in a round of shooting, which is pretty good. You tank a couple Rogel Dawns. People don't typically shoot the riders, but the riders are what allow you to pop transporters to actually get to the stuff that's inside with the rampages, for example. Because typically rampages won't kill a transport with mortals alone; they'll have to attack it as well. If you can kill the transport and get it low enough at even, then the mortals will kill the transport. They also do things like killing if your unit's multi-staging. So if they've got a couple units of Blood Angels, for example, you don't want to hit the first unit because you get heroics by the one afterwards. The gunners can then shoot the unit behind it. They open up possibilities that otherwise you might get stuck with.
And I also think when you look at the stats of the Krootox riders, and this is something that when I look at the way that the list is purely a stat check on 2 levels, and the way that I decompartmentalize what pieces are going to be doing what, you've got the let me just do quick maths. 30 wounds in the Rampager unit, right? And then you've got 15 in the Krootox riders. So, and it's all T6, 5 wounds, 5 up invuln. And you're like, okay, cool, well, I'll tell you what, here's 3 Krootox riders. Would you like to come and deal with them? If you deal with them, you're going to get hit by the 6-man rampages. Or if you deal with the 6-man rampages, you're going to be hit by the other 6-man rampages or the Krootox riders. So you're offering your opponent some really frustrating stat lines to deal with. And that's before we've even started talking about all of the Kroot bodies that you mentioned before that you got in the way. So your opponent goes, great, that's all got stealth. That hasn't got stealth. But that's T6 with 5 wounds. Ugh. Like, I don't even think... I think outside of a Repex, what other tanks are killing 3 Krootox riders in a single activation?
Unless they get lucky spiking with like Vindicator damage rolls and everyone is like a 5.
Yeah.
Not many.
And then imagine your opponent goes, oh, cool, I killed a rider and a half. That's fun.
And even if they have killed the whole unit, it's 90 points.
Yeah, you're like, oh well. I'll just bring in my reserves. I've got more.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
And they have to get close enough to you to shoot you.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I tend to find works quite well is I'll put most of the nearly the three rampages on one flank, and then a horde of regular crew and the riders on the other flank. And because no one is going to deal with those 18 rampages, they will normally clear up that flank eventually. But on the other side, the riders are really good at delaying the opponent, keeping them off their objective, tying stuff up, and kind of protecting the rest of the individual crew. They
Mm.
synergize quite well because they want to be near the infantry. So I tend to do this kind of split, and it's turned out okay.
And then finally, you've got just Vespid Stingwings. Um, is that because Uppy Downy on a basic 5-man 65-point Vespid unit is good, or do they have another role in your list?
The Vespid were a targeted change to my list. This came from the iterative part. I didn't run Vespid for a long time because they're not Kroot, so I want to run them, right? I played at, I want to say it was South Coast, and I think I was on a good run. I think I went like 4-1, and my only loss was to Blood Angels. What I found my army struggles with is an all flying army that flies over your screens. Its basic scouts will kill most of a 20-man unit of crew. That sucks. And if that army can just all in full send you, you will get beaten before you can swarm objectives. What I said to myself was, well, how can I stop someone full sending me? Oh, if I had a unit of uppy downy guys, that means that they can't full send me because I'll land on their home objective. Those Vespid have indirectly won me many a game, and they specifically won me Beachhead this tournament too. I would have lost were it not for the final turn behind enemy lines, recover assets that the Vespid managed to let me do.
Amazing. So that's really interesting to me. And I think that obviously, by the way, he's not really cheating. Vespid are easily going to be Kroot, right? You could just put a couple of wings on some Kroot heads, right?
Which is, I took Kroot bodies, I put Scourge wings on them. Fun fact: Scourge wings perfectly fit the curve of a Kroot back. No green stuffing, they just glue on and they look fantastic.
It's almost like I've seen your army, and I know that was a plug, right? Yeah. No, no, that was a really good conversion. I like that. So no, it's really good. What we're gonna do is we're gonna round off this episode in the next like 5 to 10 minutes because we're going to talk about a few of the top tactics that Ross does. And then what we'll do is we're going to have a part two. It's only going to be like 15-20 minutes where we're just going to go through the actual rounds of Beachhead just to give a little bit of an overview of the matchups you played, thought process going into things like that. So please stick around for this important part and join us on the next episode where we're going to be going into Beachhead in detail. So what are some of your, if you were to pick, say, and probably there's a lot more than this, but if you were to pick like a top 5 combos, if you will. So what are the kind of what's number 5 on your list?
Cool. So the number 5 combo, I guess, is going to be the one that we talked about already, which is having an infiltrator unit, the Farstalkers, typically combined with a lone spear. Their job is to go in and pop some kind of a light transport. Between using grenades, targeting it for lethal, and getting full rerolls, they can do the Lord's work. In Asia, for example, they popped a Venom to get a Drakari Archon out with his unit, and because Drakari are quite squishy, they then charged that unit and killed nearly all of it. Doing that with a really cheap infiltrator unit is a pretty good trade.
Okay, sounds good to me. Number 4.
Number 4, I then moved back to my best boys, and this again is something we've talked about already. The Kroot Hounds are awesome. Having them Scout 7, move 12, advance, and then charge is crazy. I've been in situations where they've been able to stop my opponent sticking their home objective turn 1. They can charge a unit of cultists in someone's deployment, and typically they'll just leave the cultists on there, for example. You can wipe them out with 15 attacks, it's very possible, or kill enough of them that they then can't sit on the objective. And stopping that can be a big disruptor to your opponent's plans.
And I think something to be said about people underestimating how many attacks those bad boys have. 3 attacks? 15 attacks? Sick, let's go. And what's your
You
number 3?
keep a wound off taking on 2s as well, which is pretty good.
If only they actually had the grenades keyword, because they actually have grenades on the physical model, like on the little belts. That would be
Um,
sick.
on the Farstalker dogs have grenades,
They're special
but
boys.
not the they are special boys. Yeah.
So top three now. So the third one.
Yeah. So the third tactic is I come up with stupid names to these things because it amuses me to no end, right? I talked about Blood Angels. They were one of my worst matchups for Creep, and I think I've devised a strategy to deal with it. It's called Ogres Have Layers. Name of the strategy. what that strategy is your entire army, all 156 models, becomes one unit. You become one homogenized giant unit. And in front of the gorillas, you've got at least three different units that are separated in front. So they can't pile in and fight the unit behind it. So they can kill a unit of chaff and another unit of chaff and another unit of chaff, and what's left are gorillas. And this helped me win a game, which we'll talk about in part two, against Blood Angels at Beachhead. Prior to Beachhead, I've got a 33% win rate into Blood Angels, which is bad. And I think this strategy has successfully changed that and flipped the tide a little bit.
So it's almost like Roman warfare, where you've just basically done the tortoise shell, the testudo formation, or 300 and you're locking shields, bros. Let's go, and you're just pushing up. I love it. That's that.
Yeah.
I really want to know about it because that is clever. And it sounds simple, but
I've
it's
got a
clever.
great photo. I'll share with you the photo of it in action. It looks mad.
And finally, we got the last two. So number two.
Number two is another stupid name. It's called Operation Gorilla Flank, which I've talked about already. And it's where I realised that I want to guarantee, like that strategy earlier, I want to guarantee holding my expansion. So what better way than to send 18 gorillas and 10 Kroot? The 10 Kroot stay behind the gorillas, the 18 gorillas sweep the flank, and then turn a hard right or a hard left into your opponent's deployment. That strategy normally works quite well because they'll clear whatever's there, and then you get a whole flank to yourself. It's great.
Amazing. And then, dare I ask, what's number one? What name have you got now?
Uh, the number one doesn't have any fancy name, unfortunately. Number one is the wombo combo that we talked about. So to maximize damage with your gorillas, the dream scenario is you're stacking +1 AP, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, full rerolls to hit, with sustained and charged mortals into a single target. And I find that with that, they punch well above their weight. And again, out on the weekend, I've had both my games with Necrons. In turn one, the gorillas killed one Catan in both games, which is a pretty big achievement when your opponents used to push them forward in the liberal game and the gorillas say, no, yeah.
Yeah, I might have to put not suitable for children in this, and you could have been a donkey punch dream. Like, just like push it in. So
Yes,
honestly, like these are some good tips. I think the other one thing that I think I was going to mention really earlier on, and I think it's a really good way to lead this episode is, it sounds great. The list is working like a dream, and it's also a lot of fun, but probably not fun for your back or time. So if I remember rightly, you've got a couple of aids that you use in game to make this more enjoyable for yourself and your opponent, and that's the what do they call them?
Movement trace.
Movement trays. That's the one. So was this something you did immediately, or is this something that you did later on after you realised your back was in pain?
Yeah, so there's a load of things to it, right? It's a really hard army to play. If you just push stuff out into the middle, you'll lose. So you have to enable your brain to be fully working properly to be able to compute and calculate all the different things you have to do. The part of that is minimizing the stress mid game, and that comes from movement trays, which means you have to move less models. It comes from planning your deployment out in advance, so you're not getting to the table and going, "Oh, now what am I going to do?" Just remove that away and focus on the game at hand. It also then speeds you up on the clock. And then also silly things like making sure you drink enough water. The amount of tournaments I've been to where I forget to drink enough water and I feel like I've got a hangover the next day because I'm so dehydrated. So my goal is, a bottle of water every single game. All these things help you play actually a really complex, difficult army at your max capacity. And if you don't, you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's the devil's in the detail, right? So I always talk about when you are prepping, it sounds very corporate, but when you're setting yourself up for success, or you need to think about all the things that your brain is kind of having to kind of like figure out, and you need to cut down on the exterior noise. So you've been like, right, I've got all my models, they've all correctly coordinated in the right little loom bands or whatever it is, the trays matching up the units. I've got it all set up on a tray. I've got my dice ready in exactly the amount of number of dice that I need per activation, all these kind of things, because actually when you're moving all of these models, at some point you have to take them off the trays and things. It's going to take time, and you need to buy yourself time from other areas of the game, which is like prepping your station, stuff like that. Oh no, do you use a yoga mat as well, out of curiosity?
I don't know. I've actually found some horrendous looking sliders that are memory foam with contoured like things in them for your art support, and they're amazing.
Nice. So all that kind of things definitely ties in, especially with the fact that you've got how many models in the army? Like,
150, I think it's 156.
yeah,
And to highlight, like just to give you viewers a quick idea, I don't know if it's going to come up on screen, but it's things like
yeah,
planning
I can
out your
see it.
deployment
Yeah,
like this. So like, I've got units, I've got keys. I bring this up on the table and I follow this. I mean, yes, it's memorized now, but
yeah,
it's just a good place to start.
100%. And everybody that like has some sort of kind of prep system in place, they will just plan out the deployment. And I think the really interesting, tricky thing that I struggled with when I was playing with Kroot is that I've done my deployment perfectly, and then I've gone, oh, I have done it perfectly, but so perfectly that I can't do my redeploys.
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna redeploy it, shuffle it. I've not planned a
Every
big gaping hole where I might redeploy something, and then I just go, I'll pull it off the board then, or whatever.
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, and then also the scout move. If you're going second, you're like, nah, send it. Everything go forward.
Yeah,
There's no point
yeah,
going
that's that
backwards.
is a thing. You just go, oh well, I'm going to send it.
I don't have
See
any
what happens.
space to go backwards. I guess I have to go forwards then.
Yeah,
Amazing. Honestly, like it's been such a delight talking about the Kroot. It's a nice change, and also it's not just a let's do a cute episode and talk about Kroot. You've done an amazing like feat of winning Beachhead Brawl, and once again, I congratulate you, and I look forward to seeing you on the podium of the top Tau, and you could be like, it's not Tau, it's Kroot. That would be amazing. If I was in your shoes, I'd be like, yeah, you boys play with your Riptides. I've just won it with some chickens. That would be savage for the rest of us to deal with, but I honestly can't wait for it to happen, mate. And I'll be seeing you at Worlds, and then we'll inevitably play each other, and I'll cry because I'll be like, oh no, it's hidden supplies, or it's on layout 7. Oh no. What do you mean, Carl? You're
yeah. I
taking
actually,
9 units of flamers?
unfortunately, I think I've yeah. Unfortunately, I think I've got quite a good game into Tau, so
Mm.
that'll be exciting.
The only one that would give you a game is either Kroot or Retcard specifically designed to kill Kroot. What do you mean you've
Yeah, if
taken
you've
9
gone to
flamers?
Worlds just to beat me, then you'll probably win. Yeah.
Oh man, well, it's been an absolute pleasure. And if for those of you who want to find out more about Ross Tully, you can go over to Vanguard Tactics. They do have a fantastic coaching program set up, and you can reach out. And I'm sure you can set up some fantastic coaching sessions with the man, the myth, the Kroot hero, the Master Shaper, Ross Tully. And then obviously Ross has been working really hard with the Vanguard Tactics, doing a lot of their beginner courses and masterclass Tau series. So please, if you are interested in that kind of stuff, go and check it out. And you can go over. It's on the Vanguard Tactics website. You can find them all over the socials. And if I happen to get the links myself, I'll post them in this description on this video. But thank you very much for your time, Ross. It's been amazing, and we're going to go and do part 2, and then we'll talk about the Beachhead pairings and everything like that went down at that event. So thank you very much, buddy.
Cheers. Thanks.